Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome into the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Tuesday, February 3rd, 2015. I am Dave Biddle, and I am joined by 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting Insider, Steve Wiltfong. Steve, thanks so much for your time on this signing day eve, my friend.
Good morning, David.
All right, let's get some predictions from you. Porter Gustin is going to announce today at 1 o'clock. It's going to be between Ohio State and USC. There was a rumor that was debunked on Twitter last night that he had called USC's coaches and told them that he was going to commit to Ohio State. That turned out to be a false statement. No surprise there. Some guy with 137 followers on Twitter, like he's going to be the one to break the news. So Porter Gustin today at 1 o'clock. Is he a Buckeye or a Trojan?
The worst part about that is that someone with 137 followers can cause a stir and people react to it. That's the worst part about it. Like that even like something that person, and I don't even know what you're talking about, so maybe the guy is in the end, but just the fact that this is, a day, 48 hours before signing day, a person with 137 followers can go to Twitter and just throw out something like, Justin Hilliard will not sign with Ohio State, and then people have to react to that. Yeah, I'll just wait and see if it's true or not before I react. I do think Porter Gustin really, really liked his top three. I think he really liked Arizona State. I think he obviously really liked USC, and then Ohio State really close strong with him. And I think everyone knows how much I love Porter Gustin as a prospect, a guy that's so versatile coming from the high school level. And when you look at the guys that Ohio State's bringing in, there's a lot of versatility within this recruiting class. When you look at guys like Jerome Baker and Torrance Gibson, Eric Glover-Williams, those are guys that are very versatile. A.J. Alexander's another one that certainly brings some flexibility to your roster. Porter Gustin's a guy that I think could play several positions on the next level. Outside linebacker, defensive end is kind of where he probably fits in best. But I think it went down to the wire, because if it didn't, I think Porter would have decided. And I do think there was a time where USC was the clear leader. Talking to, talking to Barton Simmons, our 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting, and Ryan Bartow, our national insider, just how close this really is. It really was down the stretch. I could still see him choosing USC. If he picked Ohio State, I wouldn't be surprised. I know that's not.
You don't really have a prediction there.
My crystal ball's on USC. My crystal ball's on USC. I don't think I've gotten enough to change it. But if he chose Ohio State, I certainly wouldn't be surprised. But I don't want to be that guy to change my crystal ball to Ohio State the day of, and then he picks USC. I just haven't yet. There's no question he could choose the Buckeyes today, but I think there's no question he could choose USC as well.
We'll find out in a few short hours, Buckeye fans. I know you'll be tuned into the site. We'll have all the updates on Porter Gustin, so keep it locked to Bucknuts. The second guy I want to get a prediction from you on, Mr. Wiltfong, is four-star wide receiver K.J. Hill, Little Rock, Arkansas. He will announce on signing day. We're still not sure when he will announce, but it will be sometime on signing day. Give me a prediction. Where is K.J. Hill going to sign?
I think he's going to pick Ohio State. I think it's looking good for the Buckeyes. It has for a couple weeks. And so I think that he'll be part of what could be a very awesome finish for the Buckeyes. Ohio State got a chance for their dream finish. Well, dream's probably not the right word, but they got a chance to really crush it down the stretch here with Porter Gustin and K.J. Hill. They landed their top remaining defensive back target last night in David Arnett. And then you have Isaiah Prince, who will be choosing between Ohio State and Maryland tomorrow. And I talked to a source last night about Isaiah Prince that told me that Isaiah may have a tough time saying no to Urban Meyer and the Buckeyes program, although Maryland certainly did all it could to keep him in state, and I think it's a tough decision for him. But I think KJ Hill's in, and then I think that my gut's saying that Isaiah's going to choose Ohio State. That's what the intel's saying right now, but it's close for Isaiah Prince.
So you think just to be clear, you said your gut feeling is that Isaiah Prince will commit to Ohio State?
Yep, with one more day of recruiting to go.
Interesting. I like it. I want to get your thoughts on a couple guys that are committed to the Buckeyes but have had wandering eyes. Let's start with Michael Weber. Now, to his credit, people that say he has wandering eyes, I've not read anything where he's really wavered, but just the fact that he's Detroit Cast Tech, of course, Michigan's coming in hard after him. They can promise playing time, whereas obviously Ohio State cannot right away. But it sounds like Weber's going to stay with the Buckeyes, or am I off base there?
Well, I haven't heard anything that is definite to make me think that he's going to flip, but I talked to a source yesterday, and I wrote a quote that I thought was kind of funny, where I was told by a source with knowledge of the situation says that everyone in Detroit, except for Damon Webb Sr., is recruiting Michael Webb to go to Michigan, and there's a lot of adults in Michael Weber's ear right now. Another source told me that they just wanted to walk up to Michael and give him a hug and told him, do what you want to do, Mike. So there's absolutely no question that there is a lot of people in state that would love to see Michael sign with Michigan, and that's absolutely the same thing as when Jerome Baker was committed to Florida, okay? So, I mean, it works, it's, if you're an Ohio kid and you choose a school that's outside of Ohio State, and you live in a place like Cleveland, or Columbus, you're going to get a lot. I mean, you're going to have a lot of people in the area ask you why you didn't choose Ohio State. Hell, kids that don't even have an Ohio State offer. I know one young man who signed with Michigan a couple of years ago. His parents were always asked, why didn't he choose Ohio State? Well, he didn't have an offer. But still, that's just the way it works in these communities. And Michael Weber lives in a Michigan community. But there's no question I think Michael Weber wants to go to Ohio State. Ohio State was his leader in the summer. And he definitely, like all kids, went through the process and at different times had a different top school. But I know he was very excited to pick the Buckeyes. I know he had a great visit to Columbus a couple weeks ago when guys were on campus for the national championship party. But I'd be lying if someone said, "Hey, Steve, tomorrow Michael Weber's going to go to Michigan." I'm not predicting that, but how could anyone be surprised? I mean, there's a lot of pressure to go to Michigan. But yes, you're right. Michael Weber hasn't said anything to make you believe he's going to flip, but it's a tough decision for these young men, and for Michael Weber to sign with Ohio State tomorrow, that's going against what a lot of people in his ear are trying to persuade him to do.
Makes a lot of sense.
I don't know how close. I don't want to make it sound like all his loved ones are telling him to go to Michigan. I'm just saying a community. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't want it to make it seem like I'm on Bucknuts Morning 5 saying that, his parents and his coach and all of them are pushing him to Michigan. I'm not saying or not saying that. I'm just saying that the community as a whole would love to see Michael Weber sign with Michigan tomorrow.
Oh, what you said makes perfect sense. The Jerome Baker example is completely on point. You have a kid from Cleveland commits to Florida, and everybody around him is like, come on, man, what are you doing here? It's a Buckeye stronghold in Cleveland. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, Cass Tech is
right. Even some of his own
pipeline.
Family members. Right. Even some of Jerome Baker's own family members. So I would imagine that Michael Weber's got some family members that would love to see him at Michigan, just the same way that Jerome had family members that wanted to see him at Ohio State. So it's hard to leave the state when the state's schools are so damn good, And I know Michigan hasn't played well, so Ohio State listeners probably laughed their ass off when I just said that. But college football fans know that Michigan's got a lot to offer a football player from a pageantry standpoint and academic standpoint. So it's not hard. It's hard for in-state kids to say no to Michigan, but John Kelly did that and picked Tennessee, and Ohio State. they've done as good a job as they can to get Michael Weber to sign on Wednesday, so we'll see.
What's your prediction there real quick on Weber?
I think he's going to pick Ohio State again, but I hate that I can't do. I don't want to be definite because there's just so many things that can happen in recruiting. That
right.
I think he's going to sign with Ohio State tomorrow. I haven't heard anything. I think that's where he wants to go. But I'm telling you, if he picks Michigan tomorrow, for whatever reason, and I haven't heard that he's going to, but I wouldn't be surprised. How could anyone be surprised?
Right, exactly. I wouldn't be shocked either. I think he's going to be a Buckeye, but it wouldn't shock me if he picks Michigan. Like you said, he's got everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people in his ear. It's the Cass Tech's been a Michigan pipeline for years, so we'll see. What would signing day be without some drama? This is good for it's exciting.
I want a drama-free. I'd love a drama-free signing day. If all these kids could, hey, Wiltfong, I'm going here, I'm going there. I'm all for that. That's what I want.
Make your job a little easier. Okay, a couple more, we'll get you out of here. Torrance Gibson, will he stay with the Buckeyes, or do you think he'll go elsewhere?
Well, he took those visits, so I haven't heard anything to make me believe he's not going to sign with Ohio State, but I do think that Auburn and LSU think they have a chance to flip him.
All right, last thing before I get you out of here, Steve. Your thoughts on the happenings at Michigan. Are you surprised Jim Harbaugh is off to such a slow start in terms of recruiting? And the guy's going to be a good recruiter. I bet his 2016 class will be phenomenal. But I thought he would, even though he was only hired about a month before signing day, a little more than a month, I thought he would close relatively strong. He's certainly not doing that. Still has a chance. To finish strong. Urban Meyer was hired 2 months before signing day, late 2011. Had a little more time than Harbaugh. Finished with the number 5 class in the nation. So are you surprised that Harbaugh is off to such a slow start?
Well, I wouldn't call it a slow start. I just think that they're taking guys that they think can help Michigan win. They could get guys to jump in and commit, and I know like people say, oh, well, they got Nolan Ulizio, to flip from Connecticut, but they think he's a good player. 6'6", 280. They wouldn't have taken him if they didn't think he was good, because there certainly would have been no shortage of guys that would have wanted to flip to Michigan, but they're trying to find guys that they think can help them win. I think that them flipping Zach Gentry from Texas, the top 247 quarterback from New Mexico, 6'7", 230-pound kid, he fits the mold of what Harbaugh likes at quarterback. So I think that he's a guy that could be one of the more pivotal flips when you're talking about this down the road, because I actually like Michigan's roster outside of the fact, and I'm going to give my man Buckeye Warrior a shout-out, that none of the quarterbacks have proven anything. And you can't win without a trigger man. And guys like Shane Morris and Spate and those cats have not proven that they can move the chains on Saturday, so they're going to need to get some quarterback play. But I like what they have everywhere else. I'm not saying that what they have everywhere else is of a national championship caliber, but I think it's pretty darn good what they have. And then I like the coaching staff they brought in as leaders of men and guys that have proven track records of developing players. So the Zach Gentry get, I think, is a very good get. Now, it's tough to expect an 18-year-old to come in and make an impact right away, but I think that, he gives them an opportunity to turn it around quickly within a couple of years. Michigan, they got a chance to bring in Tyrone Wheatley, 4-star. He's a 4-star tight end, defensive end, maybe grows into an offensive tackle. They're still working on Van Jefferson, although it looks like he's going to stick with Ole Miss. They're going to pick up one of the more prolific receivers in the state this year in Grant Perry today, who was committed to Northwestern. Grant Perry was the overall MVP of the Sound Mind, Sound Body camp this summer, which is obviously a loaded camp, and great coach Urban Meyer, James Franklin, all those guys were at the camp. So again, Grant Perry's not a national name, but he's a good football player. So those are the kind of guys that they're trying to get down the stretch, and it was always going to be a small class for Michigan. So when Meyer came in, and again, make no mistake, Urban Meyer's arguably the best head coach recruiter in the country. In Ohio State, they did have a down year but you knew they were going to bounce back quickly. The down year was because the program went through so much stuff, and then they played a freshman quarterback. But there was no shortage of ballers on the roster, and Urban had a lot to sell on top of just being a hard freaking worker. That with his staff, and as you guys know, I call it the Urban Meyer Enterprise, because Urban couldn't do it himself. He demands his staff to work hard, and they work hard. They work hard. So that close that Ohio State had wasn't typical of a coaching change with the amount of time that Urban had. But hey, Florida got a chance to really shut it down and have an amazing close under Coach McElwain. That'll be one of the storylines I'll be following tomorrow.
Steve Wiltfong, he came strong as expected, as always. He is the Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Steve Wiltfong, my man, thank you for your time.
I really appreciate it. Yep, thanks for everyone. Thanks for allowing me to be part of the community for another year, and looking forward to 2016, where Ohio State, it's going to be a hell of a class for the Buckeyes in 2016 now.
I'm glad Dan Rubin let me borrow you for the show. He's usually the one to have you on the show, but we're switching up our schedule a little bit, so I got to steal you for one day, Steve. It was good chatting with you. Thank you for your insights. Thank you to all the listeners out there. Take it away, best damn band in the land.